Do we have everybody?
Yes, I'm on, Mr.
Okay.
Chairman.
And Zach, you're on. Brad. Let me see here. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and get started unless we need to wait on anyone.
Mr. Chairman, it's Valerie. I can see all of the staff and commission members are on and unmuted.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, Indiana Election Commission public session. This is Wednesday, March 24th, 2020, 10 a.m. I call to order the meeting with the determination of a quorum present. I'm the chairman, Paul Okeson. Along with me are Vice Chairman Anthony Long, Commission member Susanna Wilson Overholt, and Commission member Zachary Klutz. I believe we also have online Indiana Election Division staff, Co-Director Brad King and Co-Director Angie Nussmeyer, along with Co-General Counsels Matthew Kochever and Valerie Warcha. I also recognize that we have our court reporter from Stewart and Richardson Deposition Services, Maria Collier. And before we, excuse me, continue on, obviously this is a different forum. We've not done this before, at least not in my tenure as chair. So a couple of ground rules here. Just like in a public meeting, I want to remind everyone on behalf of our court reporter that when you jump in, you need to identify yourself by first and last name and spell that out for her. There might be a little bit of lag time there for her, so she's going to want to catch up. I believe she's going to leave herself unmuted, so please pay attention if she jumps in and needs to clarify something for the record that you yield to her. Also, let's just try to keep the traffic lanes one way only and one person speaking at a time so that we can clearly get this on the record and hear each other well. Given that this is a virtual meeting, which is open to the public, everyone listening will be muted to avoid those background and noise issues otherwise, so we can conduct an orderly meeting. And only when you're recognized by the chair will you be speaking. Before we get to the business of the day, I'd just like to offer a right of personal privilege and make a few comments, and I'll offer the same to my counterpart, Mr. Long. Obviously, unprecedented territory. We face a lot of challenges, and I just want to say how comforted I am in seeing both major political parties come together, find some consensus, join in communication to the Election Commission together. There's a lot to be mindful of and to think through during these tumultuous times, but to know that the parties can largely set aside any differences and try to do what's best for Hoosier voters in agreement, I think is, well, Indiana is an exceptional place for that purpose, and we've always been able to come together and rise above, and I just wanted to acknowledge that, especially with respect to Chairman Zodi and Chairman Hupfer, and just working together to put their differences aside so that we could find some common ground. And Vice Chairman Long, if you'd like to offer any opening comment, I'd certainly offer you that opportunity before we move on.
I appreciate that very much, Mr. Chairman. I would echo your comments and observations. I think the thing that has heartened me that as much as anything in this matter is there were certain founded legal positions that each side had taken that were contrary. We were able to, through our representatives, to allow those positions to be respected, that we're not conceding, neither side is conceding their position as to who has the authority relative to this. I think you're aware that the Democrats had taken the position that this is a jurisdictional issue that should be resolved by this body, the Election Commission. The governor and of course his staff and legal advisors believe that the authority rests with him, and we are respectful of that position. I think the thing that is most heartening is we're able to say to you today that we're not asking you to, or the governor or the secretary of state to concede the correctness of our position, or that we're concede the correctness of their positions, but that we really recognize that both of us, or all of us, reach an agreement on the same goal, which I feel certain we will here today, that we've accomplished the bigger and broader purpose of serving the citizens of our state. I think there's a letter before you from Karen Celestino Horseman from the party. At some point, we'll ask that be considered a part of the record. We want you. We're voting and moving forward with this today with the understanding that we believe that the governor is duly elected executive of the state, and that he has entered an executive order relative to the conduct of the primary election. We believe that the commission will do this a similar order today, and between the two of them, for sure, if one has to be right and the other one wrong, we're going to accomplish what the citizens are entitled to. Obviously, the record would reflect that the commission is a appointed bipartisan four-member body appointed by the governor, charged with the administration of the election laws. We believe that the election commission and by our action today are exhibiting that we have the power, after finding that an emergency would make it impossible and unreasonable for the persons to perform the duties or file documents specified in the election code, to extend the deadlines for that, and we can all accomplish the goal of having an orderly election. We believe and recognize, respect the role of the Secretary of State as identified as the state's chief election officer and election official, but has duties that are prescribed and the limitation of the duties and responsibilities as by the code. We think that, and I would agree with you, I have the advantage of being a member of this body for several years, and this is unprecedented. This is an example, I believe, for all that have been maybe critical of the even split of partisan membership on this body, that we traditionally rise above partisan concerns and are able to accomplish the people's business. I'm very pleased, and I applaud, like you did, the chairman of both of the state parties, and Mr. Hupfer and Mr. Zodi. I applaud and I thank the governor and his staff and the secretary and her staff, and I offer sincere appreciation to the division staff for all the tireless effort that they have put in to make this work. This has been truly a bipartisan operation, and I'm proud to be a part of it here today.
They've all been working around the clock. Thank you for that. Moving on, I request that the Election Division Co-Counsel confirm that the public meeting has been notified properly.
This is Valerie, V-A-L-E-R-I-E, last name Warcha, W-A-R-Y-C-H-A. The meeting was posted online at 3 p.m. approximately yesterday to let people know how to do Zoom. And then we also posted a hard copy notice outside the Election Division and the Secretary of State's office. And in addition, we sent notice to the media.
Thank you. Co-Counsel, Co-Cheever, do you have anything to add?
Mr. Chairman, Matthew Co-Cheever, M-A-T-T-H-E-W, Co-Cheever, K-O, C as in Charlie, H, E as in Edward, V as in Victor, A-R, Co-General Counsel. No, I have nothing to add on this point.
Okay, thank you. Moving on, item 3, Order 2020-37. The Election Commission is meeting today to discuss an order that will, and vote on an order that will allow the June 2nd, 2020 primary election to be conducted in the most orderly and accessible fashion possible, based on what we know today. I move to adopt Order 2020-37, which has been posted on the Election Commission webpage, can be found on the Secretary of State's site, and previously distributed to the commission members. For purposes of discussion, is there a second to that motion?
Mr. Chairman, Anthony Long, and I would second that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Long. This order addresses many issues, as we've been discussing, arising out of the governor's order to suspend the statute setting the date of the primary as May 5th, 2020, and rescheduling that election to June 2nd, 2020. Order 2020-37 addresses the following subjects related to the rescheduled primary election. I will read through these for the record. Briefly, Section 1 and 2. This order applies to the entire state of Indiana and to everyone who has a responsibility to perform a duty related to the primary or the right to file a document related to that election. Section 3 moves all dates by 28 days. Section 4 avoids reprinting ballots and other forms that have the May 5th, 2020 date. Section 5 allows everyone to cast an absentee ballot by mail without having a specific reason to do so. Section 6 grandfathers applications already received for an absentee ballot, which does not state an excuse permitting the person to vote by mail. This section also directs the election division to work with the Secretary of State to develop an online application for the upcoming primary, indianavoters.com, if possible. Section 7 permits county election boards to conduct meetings electronically rather than in person, just as we are doing so today. This section also permits county election boards more efficiency in reviewing an absentee ballot application. Section 8 encourages counties to appoint medical professionals to act as traveling absentee boards to help voters confined in medical facilities to cast a ballot. Section 9 provides special procedures for voters who are unable to physically mark and return their ballots. Section 10 permits family members and caregivers of a confined voter to personally deliver and return a ballot on their behalf. Section 11 provides flexibility to the county clerks regarding the location of the clerk's office for voting purposes. Sections 12 and 13 allow county election boards to consolidate voting locations and vote center sites and to take spacing measuring to ensure the safety of all voters. Section 14 loosens restrictions on students who wish to serve as poll workers or absentee board members. Section 15 allows county election boards to begin expeditiously counting ballots at 6 a.m. on election day. Section 16 advises county election boards that election results must be determined by 3 p.m. on June 12th. Section 17 specifies that the Election Commission will meet on April 22nd at 10 a.m. to discuss moving to a vote by mail election if necessitated by the public health crisis and address any concerns related to conducting political party conventions. And Section 18, this order is effective immediately upon its passage. With that, I will recognize my colleagues on the board for any discussion. Hearing
Chairman,
none. Yes, please, go ahead. Sorry.
One of the things that I didn't want to capitalize on speaking here today, but afford other members an opportunity to address. One of the things that I have observed and been trying to be very conscious of through this is that we have not created something that will have unintended consequences. I think and I applaud the fact that we're going to have a meeting on April the 22nd, or a hearing actually on April 22nd, and that there are some issues that have been raised by entities such as, well, the Indiana Citizen. I had a pleasure to speak with my good friend Phil Moreau yesterday about the concerns they had, and was happy to report that with his interest and concern, we were able to, the new order addresses their biggest concern. We've received communications from third-party candidates that I think need to be duly addressed and considered to make sure we're not hampering them in any form or fashion. And we've received communication from the American Council for the Blind in Indiana that has prompted another review and a thought on the issues of our citizen voters that have disabilities and need some accommodations that we can deal with. And I feel certain we'll be able to recognize if we have created some consequences that maybe have not been fully addressed, and be able to work with them and deal with them on the 22nd. But I believe that the platform that we have brought before the commission here today in the form of this order is a tremendous step forward to an orderly movement of the election and the ability to have a mail-in type voting procedure that is effectively administered. I think we can learn from that. We'll give an opportunity to see how well the mail-in system works and what problems it will create, and I'm sure there will be some. But if we have a rollout on this one that has been necessitated by conditions that are certainly outside of all of our controls, that we're going to at least have an opportunity to test the efficiency and efficacy of this into the future. So in my position on this matter, and I want to make it very clear that with the ability to go back and look at any shortcomings or consequences that we may have inadvertently created here, that this is a real good step, and I'm proud to have been a part of this bipartisan effort.
Thank you, Vice Chairman Long. I appreciate that. Any others?
Mr. Chairman, if I
Chair recognizes Zach Lutz. Zach, you're on mute.
just a minute, Chairman, sorry.
I can hear you now.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman. Sorry, Mr. Chairman. If I may, I just would like to echo Chairman Long's comments. You know, I'm glad. Well, let me just say this: it's moving an election is clearly not as simple as just saying it's going from May 5th to June 2nd. And I really would like to thank the election division staff, both sides of the aisle, Secretary of State Connie Lawson and her office. This is a comprehensive order. I support the order. And it's as comprehensive as possible, I think, to ensure the most voter turnout while also protecting the health of the voters generally. We've received comments, some comments from interested parties, including election administrators. And I encourage those election administrators and other interested parties on the line today to continue those comments coming in. We're meeting again April 22nd, so we'll certainly have the opportunity to, between now and then, review your comments. And I know changing an election date and also going to, you know, how an election is administered in terms of no-fault absentee creates challenges and requires changes. No different, though, than every other facet of society right now that is having to change how they operate and how they conduct normal operating business. So I ask the election administrators, keep the comments coming, be patient, be flexible, be open-minded. We understand that these changes will cause difficulties, but difficulties are being faced everywhere. So that's my comment. And again, I do support this order.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by stating your name. We'll do a roll call vote if that's okay. I'll start with you, Vice Chairman Long.
I believe, am I unmuted?
I can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
You're aware I'm watching this on the two venues.
Yeah.
I vote for the motion and to approve the order.
Okay. Commission Member Klutz.
Mr. Chairman, I vote in favor.
Commission Member Susanna Wilson Overholt.
I vote in favor of the order.
As chair, I vote in favor of my own order, so we have a unanimous decision to pass the order. Is there consent by the commission members for the election division staff to sign this order with their signature stamps?
I give my consent, Anthony Long.
I give my consent.
You have my consent as well, Zach Klutz.
Thank you. And as has been said in some of the comments section, I would like to acknowledge that we've received some requests for input from the public, and some of them have been mentioned. I'll just go through the list that I'm aware of. There may be others, so forgive me, but should you be interested in seeing this commentary or desired input, I would refer you to the election division staff. But in no particular order, I know we've heard from the Indiana Green Party, the American Federation for the Blind, the Indiana Disability Rights Foundation, the Indiana Democratic Party, the Indiana Citizen, and the Tippecanoe County Board and Election Staff. And there may be others, but again, we will refer you to the election division to get access to that information. As Vice Chairman Long noted, we are meeting again in April the 22nd. So we welcome any comments from the public. If you'd like to submit a comment to the Election Commission, please submit your comments in writing to elections, that's elections at iec.in.gov by April 10th, 2020. This will give the commission time to review any and all comments prior to that meeting on the 22nd. With that, I believe we've concluded business for today. Do I have a motion? Yes.
Mr. Chairman, this is Susanna Overholt. Prior to adjourning, I was wondering if we could discuss some possible issues for consideration at the April 22nd meeting, or is that something we need to defer and have the division staff contemplate those prior to that meeting?
Yeah, it's the latter, Commissioner Overholt.
Okay.
I appreciate that, but yes. Do I have a motion for the Indiana Election Commission to adjourn?
Anthony Long, so moved.
Is there a second?
Second, Commissioner Klutz.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 The ayes have it, and the meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for your participation today.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Great job.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.